Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alex Cuesta Daily Show. Thank you for joining me. How is everybody doing out there? I hope everybody had a good weekend. It is Monday, April 4th, 2022. Before we get into anything fun, please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify, and spread this word of mouth. Because if you like the show, it's the best way to get it out there. Just telling people you like it and to listen. And as always on socials, go search the Alex Cuesta Show, and you'll find the show and the show everything wherever you can find social media. So I talked about a little bit of the format switch that is going on with the show a little bit. One of the things is there will be many, many more guests brought on. If anyone's familiar with my old work, Sports Opinions and The Median, I always enjoyed having guests on. It was always something fun. So you're going to start hearing a bunch more new voices, maybe some old voices from those shows popping on and doing some good interviews, just a lot more loose, just kind of talking it out with these people. And I plan on trying to get some bigger names. If anybody knows some big names that would like to do a fun show, send them my way. But that would be the ultimate goal, is to mix it up. Have myself solo on here talking about things, bring some people on, discuss things with them, pick their brains with their expertise, things like that. So we have a show ahead of us, a fun show. There's some important news that broke. I don't know if many people will find it significantly important, but it is pretty important in the cultural landscape of things. But before we jump into that, we're going to do the Biden COVID tracker, holding this jamoke of a president that we have accountable for all the cases and deaths that are happening under his watch. Now, granted, that is going down significantly, and it's a good thing, but they are still happening. And until he lowers this to endemic level, I'm going to continue to hold him to account. So we were last on Friday. The numbers were climbing. There was a significant number over the weekend. I don't know if weekend reporting is just not great and the numbers are much smaller on the weekends, because every time we get around to weekend reporting, the numbers look amazing and then they balloon a little bit as we go throughout the week. So maybe it's just when they report, how they report through the CDC and stuff like that. So we'll do it. Saturday was the second. Cases were up to 80,140,309, uptick of 36,648. Deaths were up to 982,371. That's an uptick of 1,747. As of yesterday, the 3rd, cases were at 80,150,811. That's an uptick of 10,502 cases. Deaths were at 982,533. Only 162 deaths nationwide. And as of today, the 4th, we are at 80,155,397 cases. That's an uptick of 4,586 deaths, 982,565, only 32 more, which is awesome. And again, I don't know if this is just the way the reporting lags behind over the weekend. People need off too, and government workers especially take off when they can. So I don't know if that's the case. It seems to be that way, as I've been tracking this for now a long time. I think I started almost with the show doing it, so it's probably been about a month or so, a little bit more than a month of tracking this. But it seems to be that way. But either way, good news. Good news. We've been at endemic level. This is an endemic at worst. And people are going about their everyday lives. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing right now. But I will continue to hold the man to account, because he deserves it. Because you come in with the plan, you fail at everything you do, someone should hold you to account. So here's the big story of the day. And like I said, some people may not find this to be a huge earth-shattering story. But Tesla CEO Elon Musk has purchased 9.2% of Twitter shares. And that makes him the largest individual shareholder, dwarfing Jack Dorsey, who's, I think, at 2.2% of shares. Now, that number is gigantic. It's billions of dollars that are being bought. It is millions of shares that are being bought. So Jack Dorsey's 2.2% is not like it's a sniff. It's still billions of dollars that he bought as well. And I forget which company it is. There's a company that also has 9.2% of shares. So he's technically tied as a shareholder, but he's the largest individual person to hold those shares. Now, Why is this important? People are probably like, man, number one, it's important because it takes off from Will Smith and the fucking slap. I'm done talking about that. Me and David did the show about it last Thursday. I'm over it. I don't care about the slap anymore. It's done. Until Chris Rock truly addresses it, but everyone's taking their opinions. Jim Carrey, Denzel Washington. Until Chris Rock comes out and really does something, or it's done, who the hell knows? But it seems like Will Smith is quote unquote getting canceled for this. I don't know. People are being stupid about it. Whatever. He slapped a dude. He's a bitch. Just go about your day. Will Smith's a bitch. That's all you need to know. But this is important for cultural reasons because Twitter is, as much as it's not real life in any way, shape, or form, it does shape a lot of what our culture, what happens in our culture in America. It is a big deal. And there's a battle that's constantly waging on Twitter. If you are on Twitter and you are active in the political landscape, you see that there is a constant battle going on between the left and the right. And it is always gotcha. It's always going at it. It's always poking fun at each other, and in a serious way, because people treat Twitter as a very real thing. They treat it as real life. Companies treat it as real life and make big decisions based off Twitter mobs. And we've seen that happen. We've seen it happen on Twitter with occasions where leftist mobs and now even conservative mobs are doing these types of things and trying to get people canceled, trying to get things changed, trying to get stuff shut down. Donald Trump was huge on Twitter in terms of gaining popularity for the 2016 election and ultimately winning on the large back of social media. So it is significant that Elon Musk buys this. Now, why is it significant? It's significant because Elon Musk, over the last, I want to say, month or so, has been saying a lot of stuff. Now, he's always been a proponent. He's always been a guy that's talked about how important free speech is and stuff like that. And he really goes out and makes fun of people that are against free speech. And he's let out a series of tweets. 24th of March, he put out a poll. Twitter algorithm should be open source, yes or no. Essentially, should we be able to see in real time what the algorithm is doing and have a semblance of control over the algorithm that we have? Open source means that you control what it is there. So there is no algorithm essentially learning you and only giving you shit that they think you're going to like. No, you have complete control and autonomy in an open source platform. He then tweeted the next day on the 25th of March, free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And it was a yes or no again. And he then tweeted not too long after that, the consequence of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully. Now, that date, the 25th and even the 24th, are very important. And again, the algorithm question got a 83% yes, it should be open source. And this question about Twitter rigorously adhering to the principles of democracy, functioning democracy and free speech, got that Twitter is 70% no, they do not rigorously adhere to that principle. Now, this comes not too long on the heels of new Twitter CEO Agrawal, I don't know his first name, basically saying that Twitter does not have to adhere to the First Amendment of the United States. They are not, basically, they don't care about the First Amendment. They do not care about free speech. And that's when Elon Musk kind of started going into the diatribe about free speech and all this type of stuff. And then the following day, on the 26th, he quote tweeted his poll and said, given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done? And he followed it up with, is a new platform needed? Now, that is important. It is an important date. Why? We'll find out. But let's first talk about what the implications are. Elon Musk is the most wealthy man on the planet. He is an important figure on the planet. Having money makes you an important person. He's a powerful person. He has some of the biggest companies in the world. He has Tesla, which led the charge with electric cars when people were still just kind of talking about it and hybrids were still really getting their feet wet. The Prius was really the only major hybrid on the road. You're seeing them pop up everywhere. You're seeing in where I am here in Poughkeepsie, they have the hybrid buses. That was the big thing. Then out of nowhere, Elon Musk is like, boom, Tesla, fully electric cars. Go ahead. And they're fairly affordable. They're expensive. They're $60,000, but they're not supercar level. They're not They're not, people splurge on Corvettes, which are $100,000, and people buy Porsches, and that's like their midlife crisis. So a Tesla for I guess it was more towards the upper middle class, retiree type of people, and they're sporty, good looking cars, the Teslas. And he just burst onto the scene with the Tesla. Boom. He also bought, I believe it's Solar City is him. Don't quote me on that, but he has a solar company. And that's another big thing. He bought that and exploded. It became one of the bigger solar companies in the world. And then on top of that, he has his crown jewel, SpaceX. Now, why is SpaceX his crown jewel? SpaceX is a crown jewel because although Elon Musk has been saying all the right things about free speech, and I support that completely. He said he's a free speech absolutionist. So am I. He said that's why his Starlink access, the mobile internet that he provided to Ukraine will not block Russian disinformation and propaganda because he's a free speech absolutionist. I can appreciate that 100%. I'm on his side 100%. If you're not a free speech absolutionist, then you're not for freedom. There's just no other way to look about it. Because if you don't want every opinion out there possible, whether it is abhorrent, whether it is vile, then you don't believe in freedom. You don't actually believe in free speech unless it is calling for bodily harm and threatening, which are both crimes. That's not free speech anymore. That's a crime. You cannot physically threaten a person. You cannot say, I'm going to kill this person. That's a crime. That's you can't say those types of things. But everything else kind of outside of threatening physical harm is pretty much fair game in free speech. And even then, threatening physical harm, you can't minority report people for saying, I'm going to fucking kill you. And then if they don't do it, what are you going to do? Minority report them and arrest them? It's vile. You shouldn't say that type of shit, but it happens. So if you're a free speech absolutionist, I'm on your side. And that's the way to be. That's the only way to be. But people forget about Elon Musk. He's kind of crazy in the climate. He is a climate psycho. He's one of those people that truly and firmly believe that we are actively destroying our planet, is going to happen quickly, and we need to get the fuck out of here. And it is his goal within his lifetime of actually still being active, not just old, decrepit, unable to do it. He wants to get to Mars. He wants to leave. He wants to get to Mars, and he wants to colonize Mars and get the fuck off the earth. That is his actual goal. He believes that the climate is so fucked that we can't do anything about it. There's no reason to. Just go to Mars. So people remember that. Remember that. While we agree with them on free speech, and again, you don't have to agree with everything about a person to like him. I like Elon Musk. I don't know if we would agree on much in terms of politics, but I like Elon Musk. The guy stands for what he believes for, and he doesn't bullshit. I can get behind a guy like that, even though we disagree on certain things. I could definitely break bread with him. So we'll see where this goes. Now, one of the reasons why this whole thing is so interesting is because of the way it's being reported. Now, normally when I come on the dailies, I will find an article, read the article, pick it apart, whether I like it, don't like it, go paragraph by paragraph. I decided to take a little bit of a different approach here because, and I'm happy I did. This wasn't the intention, but I'm happy I did. I initially read the same story about Elon Musk purchasing this 9.2%. And I wanted to see how it was reported from different places. Now, I read a good amount of them. Let me see how many articles I read. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 articles, 8, 9, 10 articles. And I have to say, it was pretty eye-opening when you read it. I read from the Post Millennial. I read from Bloomberg Quint. I read from CNBC, CNN, Fox News, AP, LA Times, BBC, and NPR. All known, all fairly reputable. Whether you want to say like, oh, Fox News and Post Millennial, they're just right-wing crazies. Well, they're pretty reputable. Shut the fuck up. Because I could say the same shit about CNN and all the other leftist nonsense that I read. But that brings me to my next point. if you read one of the leftist articles, if you read NPR, AP, LA Times, CNN, CNBC, you don't have to read the other ones. This is why people fucking hate the media. Bill Maher talked about this over the weekend with them covering up the Hunter Biden shit and essentially now coming out and saying, yeah, there's something to it, but it didn't fit their narrative. So they just said Russian disinformation. We don't have to cover it. And this changed the election. Absolutely changed the election in 2020 with the leftist media covering up for Joe Biden's son. And that's undisputable. It affected the election. But, oh, man, I'm sorry. My throat's a little queasy here, so you'll hear me drinking some water every once in a while. But overall, they definitely covered up, and the media does this type of shit. You can see it, and it's been shown multiple times with a lot of people on the right putting together montages of talking points being said verbatim about things that regard to Trump or anything on the right. It's true that it goes on. And here's another version of that. Now, I will put a caveat in here with this. The CNBC article was directly about some of the stuff I was going to talk about. So CNBC maybe gets a pass, but at this for reporting this way, so I will give them a slight pass. But still, the others seem to maybe have taken the lead. So here we go. If you read one of these articles, you would have gotten these bullet points. All the articles state flat out, with this purchase, we don't know what Elon Musk's intentions are. And then in the same vein, they write, but he is just, according to the filings in the SEC, he's just a passive investor. So, it could be that he's not looking to make any action. He's just making some long-term gains. And they note that the stock jumped anywhere from 20, depending on when it was reported, from 20% to 29%. I saw at the highest that the stocks jumped after he announced that he purchased. So those are some of the things there. And it sounds kind of like, they're a little nervous because he's a guy that talks about free speech. It has to make you perk your ears up a little, that they're writing this seeming a little nervous that this guy is a free speech absolutionist, just purchasing majority individuals, the biggest individual share of Twitter. And essentially, if he wants to, will have a say on what goes on there. Then they go into a little bit of a smear campaign. All of them go into a little bit of a smear campaign. Again, outside of CNBC, which was about basically this, they talk about him and the SEC and the shit going on between Musk and the SEC currently. Now, again, CNBC's title was Elon Musk thumbs his nose at the SEC again with Twitter stake. So their whole article was about Elon Musk battling with the SEC. But everybody else's wasn't. All the other ones I mentioned, CNN, LA Times, AP, NPR, we're supposed to be reporting about the fact that Elon Musk purchased 9.2% and became the largest individual owner. Instead, they decided to pivot and talk about the fact that, Musk didn't disclose this as quickly as he should in terms of the time. Because when we looked at the filings, it looked like he filed for it on March 14th. And by rule, any purchases over 5% stake need to be disclosed within 10 days. And he did not. But instead, he put out a Twitter poll on the 25th. I told you that number would be important, about the freedoms and democracy and upholding the First Amendment and yada, yada, yada. So right there, all of them. And even, I believe, if I look back at it, I think LA Times and NPR, I thought I was reading Deja Vu. They had a whole 4 paragraphs that were identical on shit like this. So it's like they're not even trying. They get some notes from whoever the hell their overlords are, and then they have to write it. And they have to write it that way. Now, let me check to make sure that there was no contributing writers on here, because then I might be egging my face. But I didn't think so, because I thought it might have been that way. But then there was enough different there. Yeah, let me see. That's the AP. So, okay, that will make sense. If the AP, so the AP, but the AP has suddenly Twitter's biggest stakeholder is So I stand corrected here. There's a reason why it's verbatim. It's because NPR aggregated from the AP. So maybe we'll take NPR and the AP off together. But LA Times, CNN, CNBC are all in lockstep. So, but there's enough. But you know what, though? They aggregate to the AP, but it's a different article from the AP. So no, I'm not even going to accept that. It is a different article from the AP. So no, we're going to continue to add them because it is not even the same article and they all go verbatim together. So no, I'm putting them back on. So they just gave the aggregate to the AP from NPR. They didn't give the authors, even if I scroll to the bottom here. No, they don't have the authors on here. But they're different articles that I found from the AP and from NPR. So yeah, they all kind of follow the same broad stroke here. That he tweeted instead, and one of them also said, like, but he has been okay with taking the fines that are probably going to come from this, which they then equated that's usually like around $100,000 for a fine, and that's like a fraction of his net worth. If the average median house is $122,000, which is bizarre to me, the average median income $122,000 in America, that would be like a 3-cent fine, which is hilarious. But they all talked about that. That was a big deal to them, that he was late on filing this. Ooh, slap on the wrist. We're rule followers. The other thing that they brought up, which again has no reason to be brought up, to be quite honest, none of this really matters. Maybe talking about he was late in announcing it, I guess. But why does that matter? They talked about that he was fined by the SEC for his tweet about possibly going private, having the funding, and the shares being around $420 in a private company. He was fined by the SEC $20 million and Tesla also $20 million. And he had to give up being chairman and have his tweets approved. He's fighting it in court right now. Now, the funny thing is, they didn't just report that happened. Every single one of these articles followed it up with, he did not have the funding, even though discussions were there. How the fuck do they know if he secured the funding? None of them, I can promise you, none of them actually know if Elon Musk secured funding to do this. I can promise you they don't. They don't know. Elon Musk is not talking to these assholes. He's not telling them anything. So they're sitting there and they're making shit up like they always do. They're making shit up like they always do about stuff like this. And again, it is a smear campaign, smear tactic. Why does him being fined $20 million for talking about going private on Twitter have anything to do with his purchases of Twitter? Again, they try and couch it in, well, maybe he's doing it so that his tweets won't get scrutinized and he can kind of tweet whatever he wants. Newsflash, you could tweet whatever the fuck you want now. You can. People, Twitter is ridiculous. And they put people in friggin' Twitter jail for bullshit. But you could tweet what you want now without being scared of them. That's not anything new. So again, put in there to smear the man, to talk about his issues going on with the SEC. And lastly, all of them made sure that they included that he is currently being investigated for when he tweeted at his followers if he should sell 10% of his shares of Tesla. Now, the SEC is going after him because I guess their argument is that his tweets control the stocks and can make it rise or fall at his whim. And that's kind of, I guess, insider. It's unfair. It's not making the natural ebbs and tides of stocks. It's funny that the SEC cares about this when we have a whole entire fucking Congress of people that insider trade. Maybe the SEC should do their job with our congressmen and women. I don't know. But no, go after the private guy who is the richest man in the world. Just keep going after him because I guess you're a bunch of fucking Marxists and just go after the rich guy. Why not? But again, include that. Why? Why include that he's currently under investigation for that? He gave it back. He did. He's almost sold off 10% of his shares as of today. He's almost had them all gone. And that all the money that is going there, he said, is going to go back towards paying taxes. So I think it's anywhere between 10 and 15 billion that he's going to pay. The man is paying more than probably any of our politicians have in the history of our country. I can probably go and say that. He's about to pay more. So you'll look at all these talking points. It's hilarious when you read. They get their talking points and they put them in. They don't care about actually doing work. They're lazy. This is a lazy journalism. They have some sort of minor differences. Don't get me wrong. And some of them have some different focuses. CNBC goes out of its way to make fun of Dinesh D'Souza for his having a campaign finance fraud brought against him, like that actually fucking matters. Because Dinesh D'Souza told him that he could change the world, change the whole entire landscape if he got more active and made his own, either bought Twitter or made his own social media. So they felt a need to jab Dinesh D'Souza. But I mean, it's just bad journalism. Just bad journalism. This is an important story. And there are going to be some facts that are exactly the same, which is fine. If you're going to write a boring story with the exact same facts, that's fine by me because that's journalism. It's just what happened. But to include a bunch of nonsense fluff and for all of them to include it, if one of them feels the need to bring up, like if, CNBC, their finance. So, okay, they want to bring this thing up, talk about something financial because the SEC and stuff. Cool. All the other ones, what the fuck are you bringing it up for? To smear Elon Musk a little bit. To make it seem like this guy's not on the up and up. To make it seem like he is in trouble with the government and therefore is just trying to buy Twitter and he's a bad actor and we shouldn't trust him and yada, yada, yada. So overall, just be on the lookout for this stuff. It's hilarious. It is a big story that Elon Musk bought 9.2%. He's the biggest individual shareholder, and it could be really effective because there's nothing saying that he can't buy more shares and become an active investor and then implant himself as the CEO or chairman because he'll have by far the most shares and he'll have power. And then we'll see what he does from there. I still think at this point, his tweets are still going to hold water. The more he talks about free speech, the more he talks about that stuff. I'm on his side with the free speech stuff. I'm not going to believe that he's all in on it until we see him force Twitter to bring back guys like Trump, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes. That's when I'll sit there and be like, 100% Elon Musk puts his money where his mouth is on this free speech type of stuff. We've seen him do his money, period. He puts his money where his mouth is. When he says he's going to send money somewhere, he does it. He said, Ukrainian said, we need Starlink. He sent Starlink. The United Nations World Hunger said 6 billion could help us out big time in stopping hunger. What'd he do? Months later, he listened to them, cut a check for right around 6 billion. The guy does what he says when it comes to his money. Now, I'm hoping that him using his money here would be for him to be really a free speech absolutionist and push Twitter to actually stop being a bunch of fucking dickheads when it comes to differing opinions that they share ideologically, because what they do is wrong. And it really controls a lot of the popular narrative. If it's that despicable, let the public discourse decide it's that despicable. What do they have to fear? They have the corporate media. They have all of it outside of Fox News. I don't count OAN. I don't count Newsmax. They're too small and they're fucking crazy. I'm sorry. If you like OAN and Newsmax, you're just as bad believing in propaganda arms because those two are insane sources. But overall, this can be good news, cannot be good news. I know conservatives are celebrating. People on the right are celebrating because he has said the right shit about free speech. He's been tweeting a lot about it right lately. But pump the brakes. Let's see what he does. Let's see if he does anything. Could just be a money play. Could have just seen that Twitter has fallen half since basically 2020, February 2020. They've lost basically half their shares. And he knows that implanting himself into anything automatically boosts it up. So there you go. Maybe he just bought a ton to make the investment and make a ton of money. And who knows what he's going to do. But I just found it funny the way it was covered. And I'll tell you this, not a single one of the conservative spots that I read, Fox News, Post Millennial, none of them mentioned anything about his SEC issues because it's not necessary. Not necessary to the story. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to me rant and rave. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify. And also spread word of mouth. If you like the show, go on social media, find us on anywhere, search the Alex Cuesta Show. You'll see the logo and it'll be there. Go search, follow, and try and support us that way too. We appreciate all of that type of stuff. And I will be back tomorrow with another show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. So long.